All right, joining me now, Maryland Senator Ben Cardin, chair of the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, always great to have you back. And I want to ask you about this idea of this dysfunction in Washington. I mean, you're among dozens of members who are retiring, going on to new adventures, but many of them have said it's because they feel like Washington is falling apart. Representative Ken Buck said this place has evolved into bickering and nonsense and not really doing the job for the American people. How have you seen Capitol Hill change over the years, and do you feel like it is broken as you leave?
Well, Shannon, first, it's good to be with you. Clearly, our nation is more divided, and that's reflective in our legislative branches of government as well. But I must tell you, it's been a real honor to serve in the United States Senate. I have friends on both sides of the aisle working together. We've gotten a lot done. So I would not minimize the ability of senators to work together across party line to get things accomplished. It's happening today. But our nation is divided, and we need to find ways that we can work together. We did that in passing the continuing resolution. It was a compromise. Democrats and Republicans worked together. At the end of the day, we got something done that's good for the American people. We kept government open, and we provided the disaster relief funds that are desperately needed throughout the country. That's working the way we should.
All right, you chair the Foreign Relations Committee, so I want to try to get to some foreign hotspots while we have you. Let's start with Israel. You've been a strong defender. I want to ask you whether you agree with your fellow Maryland Senator, Chris Van Hollen, who has written that he thinks that President Biden has failed policies in the Middle East. What's your assessment, and where do you think we are in getting to a ceasefire and getting the hostages home?
I think President Biden's done the right thing as far as America's involvement in the Middle East. We are on the verge, I hope, of a ceasefire and the return of the hostages. There's active negotiations taking place. We have real promise in Lebanon with new leadership to be able to make that a safer country. And then, of course, in Syria, with the downfall of the Assad regime, there's real opportunities. And the President Biden's been very actively engaged with our partners in the region, including the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Jordan and Egypt and UAE, to try to get regional cooperation and security in the region.
You mentioned Syria, so I want to ask you about this. There are reports from the AP this morning that Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is saying that young Syrians will resist the new government that appears to be emerging. He's pointing fingers at the U.S. and Israel, saying they've sowed chaos in the country now that Assad has been run out. What do you make of what comes next? There's a power vacuum when somebody is toppled, and for Iran's tentacles in that country as well.
Well, Shannon, it's important for the Syrians to select their own leaders, but that leader needs to respect the diversity of the country. The country is very diverse. It has a lot of ethnic communities. They got to protect the rights of all the Syrians and prevent terrorist organizations from getting a roots in the country, and then have peaceful relations with their neighbors. That's the U.S. objective, not to build a government. That's up to the Syrians to build their own government, but we want a government that will respect those priorities.
Another major issue, and of course, Russia's influence has been seen there in Syria as well. They don't seem to be as involved or willing or maybe able at this point to get involved. Certainly they weren't to save Assad as he was run out. It's another major foreign policy issue Biden has dealt with, Trump's going to have to deal with. Putin said days ago he's ready to start talks again with President-elect Trump, and he adds this: I believe that Russia has become much stronger over the past 2 or 3 years. Why? Because we are becoming a truly sovereign country. We are no longer dependent on anyone. How would you assess Russia's strength at this point, and how does that conflict end?
First, I would recommend we do not believe what Mr. Putin says is accurate. He has shown over and over again his commitments mean little. Look to Assad regime. He was not there for Assad. He recognized that Russia just was not going to invest anymore in Syria. Russia's, under Mr. Putin's, not a reliable partner, and I hope that message is understood around the world. So as the Trump administration takes the power here in the United States, I hope they're very cautious in their relationship with Mr. Putin. He is our adversary and not a friend.
Well, all of these challenges have been playing out as President Biden reaches his final days as commander-in-chief. There's a deeply sourced piece in the Wall Street Journal this week talking about people feeling like lawmakers, like they couldn't get in touch with him. Even cabinet secretaries at some point gave up trying to reach him, and that staffers were sometimes, it appeared to be, making really important decisions. Wall Street Journal has this: if the president was having an off day, meetings could be scrapped altogether. On one such occasion in the spring of 2021, a national security official explained to another aide why a meeting needed to be rescheduled. Quote, "He has good days and bad days, and today was a bad day, so we're going to address this tomorrow." As chair of the Foreign Relations Committee, did you feel like you had access to the president when you needed it? What do you make about this very detailed picture of a commander-in-chief who was at times not able to do the job?
Shannon, I've had regular communications with the Biden administration on foreign policy issues, and it has been absolutely timely, and everything we needed to get done, we've gotten done. I've already mentioned many hotspots around the world in which the Biden administration is extremely active. I know in the continuing resolution, the Biden administration's request for the disaster relief was held pretty much intact. So President Biden is very much engaged, his team's very much engaged on not only our international issues, but also our domestic issues.
Well, you mentioned you were able to engage with members of the Biden administration, and that's what a lot of other folks have said too, but not directly with the president. Congressman Adam Smith talks about the fact that he had warnings and worries about the withdrawal from Afghanistan that he wanted to share with the president, but couldn't get in touch with him directly. Are you confident that the messages, the work that was being done, you say staffers and administration, but direct connections with the president, were those happening?
Shannon, I was ranking Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee under President Trump and chairman under President Biden. I've had a lot more communications with President Biden than I ever had with President Trump. So yes, I've been in communication with the president, and I found his access available whenever I needed it.
Okay, I want to ask you about the drones, because we all have a lot of questions about the drones. I want to play something that your colleague, Senator Blumenthal, said about his confidence in what he's been told so far.
We've received only minimal information, which leads me to believe that our federal government has no idea, no clue, no reliable information about these drones, and I am more and more concerned.
Says he's more and more concerned every day. Where are you on this, the information you've been able to gather, the assurances you've gotten? What are your questions?
Well, in regards to the recent observations, we've been informed that there's no threat against our country. But there are so many drones that are in the air today, many of them just done by private on recreational use by individuals. There's aircraft that are identified as drones that are not drones, that are causing real safety issues in regards to laser beams. So there is a desperate need for us to get a handle on drones and the regulation of drones and where they can fly. And of course, it's already a criminal offense to use laser. So we need to get a better handle on it. Obviously, it is a vulnerability that we have to make sure never becomes one that could compromise America's national security.
Senator, congratulations on your decades of service to this country and for all of the visits you've made to Fox News Sunday. We so appreciate it. And wish you all the best in your next chapter, and a happy Hanukkah as well, sir.
Well, Shannon, it's always good to be on your show. I really appreciate it very much, and have a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.